I'm gonna let you listen to this episode, but before this, another thing popped into my mind, and that is the fact that let's say, right, there's a scripture God sent down, but it's corrupted, and then God sent you someone from Himself to come and guide you again. Which people in the human race should they visit first? Exactly, right? Whoever is following that book. If there's other groups who are still following that book, or maybe they have a different version or another book God also sent, then they have to go to both, right? Okay, so let's say the Torah is corrupted. Let's say God sent another book after that. That means if God sends Jesus, then Jesus has to go to whoever has the corrupted Torah and whoever has the other book that God sent afterwards. Because exactly, they're actually in God's religion, but they're just, right, following corruption. You wouldn't really go to pagan people, correct? You wouldn't really go to people who don't understand what you're talking about first. First, you'd go to those who actually are worshiping God, but there's some evil in them. Okay, so that's the evidence that Prophet Muhammad, the time he came, the closest human beings that then God would have to send him to are the Christians, not pagan people like the Arabs. But because he's from Arabia, they want to push him away, right? The evil human beings who are Christian who don't want the truth, which is the Quran at that time. Right now it's corrupted. Back then, since they're the bad ones, just like the Muslims, the Christians today who follow the evil in these two books, you are the bad one always when a leader comes down from God. Because you're the one using his book to say evil is okay. So God has to send them to you first, not people who don't even know what you're talking about, who worship a rock. So that means our prophet has to go to the Christians first. That proves he entered Europe. But because they're the ones who are then going to reject, right? Because they're the bad ones at that time, they're going to erase that from history. It's like rejecting the fact that he even visited them because he's not European. And that's why then they make such a big deal out of his race. And then the Arabia, right? They rejected him, obviously, but they want to act like they love him. And in history, they corrupted history to say, well, we were the ones to accept him, but Europe hated him. It's actually vice versa. It's vice versa. He was sent to Europe, not Arabia, because they have the Bible. And this man is from the same God who sent you the Bible, but is corrupted. So who should he go visiting? Who should he talk to first? You understand him. Okay, but when he visits you, the bad ones in those ancestors, because of that arrogance, right? Such as the Jews, because of that arrogance, they're gonna be like, we're not gonna acknowledge you even were sent to us in the first place after Jesus, because you're not a race. So this is why usually human beings in history, you all know them to reject a leader just because of the race. Okay, of course they're gonna go to hell because look how dumb they are. Look what they're using to judge somebody. Okay, so then they completely erased it from history. You can't be like it's not possible. We already know what the bad Jews did to Jesus and all other past prophets. You already know that's just what they do. They erase things from history. Okay, so since he's Arab, they pushed him to the Arabs in their books. They just wrote down, oh, there's just some Arab man. He just went to the Arabs. He helped them. They built a religion together. We don't know anything about him. Get it? Because he was sent to them. So it's like they're rejecting him, not not literally only right when he visited them, but they also rejected him in this metaphorical way in their books because it's like saying that race he comes from is the only race we're gonna attribute him to because we're the bad ones in this lifetime. It's not rational, right? The God that sent you the Bible to send you another book and another man who has it or woman, and for him to go to another people. You're the ones who are actually worshiping him, that God. So he should send you the leader first because you actually know who God is. You're monotheism. He shouldn't go to pagan people. They don't know what you're talking about. You're the one who's going to understand him first. So that's why. That's why the next leader of Islam, Mahdi, has to go to Europe again. They have to go to exactly Christians again. They're not necessarily going to just go to Muslims. Because right now, they're going to have to go to both of you. They're going to have to go to Christians and Muslims. They're not going to go to Buddhist people. So just as you would agree that makes sense, if Islam is correct but is corrupted, then the leader of God again should go to Muslims first. Okay, but we're telling you Christians are also God's people, but they're corrupted. Then okay, this leader has to go to both of you. But in that time, there was no Muslims. There was just Christians. So you were the Muslims back then. You were the only group who followed God, but your book was corrupted way back then. You were doing evil. and the leader comes down only to stop your evil. That evil is specific, just perversion and sexism, then the other stuff next. So that proves our prophet actually first was sent to Europe. But because of that, they're the only ones to say, we don't know what you're talking about. We've never seen him before. And it's not hard to prove it. Why did they tell you he went to Arabs first? Why don't they tell you he went to Africa first? If you just want to lie, then just lie. Just say he went somewhere else. Why are they just pushing him only to the Arabia? They don't say he went to China, the other part of Asia. Because it's like saying he's not the same person as Jesus. It's like saying he's not connected to the Bible. It's like trying to create a different religion for him by just attributing him to Arabs. But if they admit that he's just like Jesus, he also came down from the same God, and therefore, yeah, they're the people he should go to first, but that they just simply rejected him, then they look bad to you. They look bad. So they have to act like exactly that what he brought down was just for his little people over there. But how do they conclude to lie to you and just say he only went to Arabs instead of saying Africans and saying Europe's? Exactly, because the race. They're saying we don't want someone from another race. So we're just going to lie in history and act like the fact that you came from that race, but you actually sent to us first. We're going to act like that didn't happen. We're going to act like your race just meant you were actually just sent to your sort of section of your race, Arabia. Because if we admit that, yes, you're Arab, but you're just like Jesus, you were sent to us first because we're actually Christians, we're following the Bible, God's original book, but now it's corrupted, then it connects you to us. It connects Muslims to Christians, it connects Quran to Bible. So those evil ancestors who were Christian, who the Prophet Muhammad was stopping, they're scared of the Quran being connected to the Bible because then they have to admit the same God sent it down. And that's the greatest weapon today. They just separate this book from themselves. They separate the God here from the God who sent the other book so that then they can just push off this prophet, his entire purpose, from themselves. That is then why they're the only race that says we don't know him. He never visited us. He never traveled more than 20 miles out of Arabia. They make him look dumb because he traveled so much to reach them. And that obviously does mean that good Europeans, good Christians did agree and did follow him. His first followers have to be Europeans, have to be Christians. It cannot be Arabs. You already know. It took a long time to change them. So because they were like that, right? Because they were like, no, 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 no. They lie and act like they were the ones to say yes, yes, yes. They act like they continued his legacy. But they lie and erase the fact that he went somewhere else first. You guys can't be like, why should he do that? Because that stops sexism. If you're from another race, but we all have one God, but the race you're in does not know God that moment. That other race over there is worshiping him, but they're just following a corrupted book. Should you not be first sent to them? Because they actually know him. You guys think about it. Well, he should not really go to Arabs because he has to teach them monotheism all over again. They pagan worshippers. They worship idols. So if he was like Jesus, then he has to go to Christians first. Okay, so Mahdi, right, and Jesus, the two leaders of the future, they have to visit both of you now. It's just going to follow the same logic. They're not going to go to people who don't have monotheism first. But now there's two of you who have monotheism. Because, right, that Bible and that Quran were split up into two religions. So the devil is so scared of Europe and Asia just connecting again because the last two prophets were from these two races. So he wants to separate religion of God, which is one, just based on who this time came from which race. So guess what? Jesus is European and Mahdi is from Asia. So Mahdi has to be from Asia again, basically to finish what the prophet already did, but the devil erased it. It's like you have to come back again. It's like someone has to come from you. Just finish it once and for all. It's like someone has to come from Asia again to redeem themselves. We already visited you, Europeans. But your ancestors, the bad ones, lied. So we're going to visit you one more time. And this time you cannot lie. Because we're going to have Jesus right next to us. And he's from your race. And we're going to be two best friends. What are you going to do now? Oh, and the devil is done. After this, the world is going to end. So that then makes sense why the next leader, right, Mahdi, next prophet, it is a prophet, cannot be from Africa. This is sort of what's going on here. They're going to have a similar life of the Prophet Muhammad, basically to just redeem everything that was lost. It's like they're taking revenge for your prophet, not against humans, but against demons who corrupt everything. And to teach you one more time again, stop caring about where people come from. As long as God sent them, you're just supposed to look at the message. But evil humans are possessed by demons, so it's not really them. Their demons control them way too much. They're too dumb. So when you get your chance one more time, take it and run with it. Otherwise, you're just going to go to hell, and we don't have to care about you. But this is the evidence that this is why this prophet is accused of being illiterate, is accused of not knowing anything. Because imagine if he went to Europe, he knew English or something. He knew how to communicate with them also. The intellect, the wisdom, the first people he was sent to, everything. They just flipped it. His greatest qualities, being intelligent, being someone who I'm sure he probably knew more than one language. Not just English and Arab, Saudi, their language, right? Arabic. He knew more than that. Not just these two, but more. So they just push him into this weak little character. And they just give all the responsibilities to these fake companions they make up. Or the companions spread the religion. He did it. He spread it himself. So that means the first people to enter Islam were Christians, which means the Europeans were Christians. And that's why then they have to lie to you and hide it all the time and be like, we don't know him. We need to study and go dig up history. We need to dig up the history. Because when people are not lying to you, then they just don't know something. But there's too much resistance from the evil Europeans. There's too much resistance from this race against this prophet. Because he really was sent to them. This is your evidence. Because think about it. He's sent by the same God who sent you Jesus. So who should he visit first and say, hey, I need to talk to you? You, this race who's not his race, Europeans and Christians specifically. It cannot be those people, Arabia, who don't know nothing. It just means he's also sent to them. He's sent to everybody. But you're the one who understands what's going on first. You're actually monotheism. You have to be the first ones to change and work with him. You can't be like, I don't believe it. If it happened, there would be some hint. Everything about his life, in terms of history, is deleted. All you hear about is the Crusades. So that is your hint that history was deleted during his time. Because we can't find even just some truth and then some false. There's just nothing about him. That's not logical. We have history of people who lived way before him. So I told you, when demons lie, they don't make up something else that's false. They just flip it to the opposite. They just tell you the opposite of what happened. They don't complicate it. But your evidence will be Mahdi, which is a prophet. So our prophet is not the last one. And Jesus is going to come back and they're going to teach both of you a lesson. You seem to not learn. And this means that this is going to be a big test for the African race. Because the future leaders until the world ends are not going to come from your race. Are you going to learn from these two ones how crazy and obsessive they are? With those who come from them and they flip and lie and erase people from history? Are you going to be like, well, we don't have African prophets, so we're not following? Are you going to do the same dumb sins of your ancestors or just follow whoever God sends you? So this is a test for you. You might be like, what's going on for us? It's a test. Jesus was from Europe. Muhammad was from Asia. Mahdi is also from Asia. They got to finish what the prophet already completed, but that was erased. In God's own wisdom, he wants to repeat them from Asia again. But the devil will do something and confuse you about their race. That's why everyone's confused where Mahdi is coming from. But they are Asian, no matter what you think is going on. That's why the devil put into their story the fact that they might be pigmented. Get it? Because he wants you to think they're African or something, or mixed or something. They're literally coming down So basically, it's like they're redeeming. It's like they're taking revenge for their prophet Muhammad. He already did this work, but they just erase him from history. So it's like another unique test. It's not the one where everyone's just put in the same test. You, as a human race, you've already been tested with this. Every race had somebody. You can't be like, we don't know anything. You've already experienced that. Someone coming from every race. So you can't keep expecting God to keep repeating the cycle. He's just, that's enough. He doesn't have to fulfill your fantasy. But this is a test for everybody. Europeans, are you going to be arrogant again? Muslims, are you going to keep dishonoring Mahdi and being like, what's going on? Our Islam is the correct one. No, it's not. It's corrupted. It's going to be destroyed again. All your pagan nonsense from Arabia, you put it into it. Your ancestors put it into it. Okay? And Africans, you're thinking, well, where's somebody for us? Stop saying that. They are for all of you. Will you just focus on God and leave these people and their racial background alone? God sooner or later has to send somebody. Their body has to come from one race sooner or later. Just take the message. So it's a test of faith, as always. This would mean then the only other way, the only other possible way, is that he first was sent to the Jews. Because it's like they're the first Muslims. Okay, they're corrupted. Okay, then whatever corruptions they did to the Torah, another group entered it, right? Christians. So that means our prophet, probably the first people he was sent to were the Jews. It's not so hard to understand then what's going on. They just rejected it, acted like he never visited them. And then he had to go to the Christians. Okay? So that means good people from both groups entered Islam. They were definitely the first Muslims, but they have to erase that from history and push them off to Arabs only, because then it makes it seem like a new religion. Just some man made dumb little thing that's just that little tribe, that little group over there. But if this human being told you, yeah, I'm just like Jesus, I'm visiting you guys first because, right, you guys obviously have history with him. You're the group in the human race who are still connected to God's scriptures and religion. It doesn't mean the others were rejecting them. It's just you're the ones right now following God, but you're evildoers. You're lying. The books are corrupted. You don't want to admit it. So, of course, I'm going to talk to you first. They have to then flip it and say, we never saw him. So they talk about how he was traveling on caravans with his uncle and all that. That is a lie. That means my prophet traveled. That's your cue that this man used to travel. He knew the earth. He knew, I'm sure, all the three continents and all the other places he could definitely go on this earth. God already allowed him to know about Christianity, the Bible, the Torah, etc., whichever way it was at that time, including the book that the Jews had. God already had to teach him everything about these two religions that formed from the original religion of God Almighty. Because you have to learn everything first. You have to learn the people right now who are worshiping God, but they're evil and they're following corruption. You have to get to know them first, not people over there who are pagan. These are the people you're sent to first. These are the people who understand what you're talking about. You came to stop and correct them. But guess how the story gets flipped? They say our prophet Muhammad didn't know anything about Christianity. He didn't understand anything. They just always portray him as dumb and deficient. The same way demons follow me around and accuse me of mental illness, and God made sure I first understood Christianity. The same way they possess crazy people every day who don't know anything about me, and they just put me in a jail, accuse me of mental illness, stalk me around this country, prevent me from going anywhere. But guess how God allowed me to go through all that? I travel and travel and travel. So if I was to die in my future, they're going to act like I never traveled. They're going to act like I don't know anything about Christianity. They're going to act like I never used the Bible to stop demons who follow me around using crazy possessed people. The Quran didn't even help me to deal with these demons because it doesn't have that part about demons. It just has the part about who God is. So I had to use the Bible to stop demons from harassing me using people. My prophet had to do the same thing. Because exactly, it's before he became a prophet, it's before the book was given to him. So which book is closest to how to understand God and how to fight demons, since persecution happens to you at the beginning if you're a prophet? Exactly. That means he had to already understand Christianity and use the Bible to help himself a lot in his life. So he had nothing against Christianity. It's just God's religion. But he came to stop the lies that turned it into what it is. He did exactly the opposite of whatever they say he didn't do. That would make him look deficient, dumb, inability to understand things. I told you already. God is making me live similar to your prophet so I can expose how demons lie. They just flip the story to the opposite. But all I've done ever since the persecution got extreme is I travel and I travel and I travel. My prophet traveled. God allowed me to go to churches. He allowed me to go to churches and understand this religion. So the time that then God would choose him to be a prophet, it's not some sort of right new uh, religion in his mind. No, it's just God's religion. So he has to understand Christians and Torah. He has to converse with Jesus and have that supernatural experience with all prophets where he gets to see and meet them. He knew your leader then, whoever you guys are obsessed with Jesus. He knew everything, but that's then the opposite. To accuse him of knowing nothing, because then that's the only way to say whatever he brought down is his own. It's possible. It's actually possible that Prophet Muhammad never even grew up in Arabia. It's possible that he actually grew up in Europe. And that would then connect to why, in another episode I will share soon, why his wife has to be European. That wife they keep saying is Khadija and turn her into some Arab female. Because the goal, everyone, is just to push him to Arabian people so that then he's not connected to Christians. Get it? Technically, those who come from Europe. And then whoever else converted, which at that time also included some Africans and some Asians. Basically, the goal is just to separate this prophet from Jesus. So you have to say he was never around those who follow Christianity, which would have to be in Europe. You have to say he doesn't know their religion, which was Christianity. You have to say he never traveled. Literally, all I see is God pointing my focus to how they say he never stepped 20 miles out of Arabia. Okay, so then that's your cue. He used to travel and he went everywhere. He went to all the three continents. That doesn't mean you have to go to every single country on earth, but that means you at least saw all these three races. He had great experience with these people, and that explains why they tell you Khadija, his wife, was a businesswoman. Arabian females at that time were being destroyed. There's no businesswoman over there. The only people who you could say were having more decent lives were those following Christianity at that time, who were technically in the European area. So who knows my prophet grew up in Europe? It doesn't mean he was born there. It means his birth was exactly what you think. They tell you he's an orphan. Okay, so maybe who knows, an African adopted him. So it's like he had experience with all three different races that way. Everything is distorted from basically Europe. It's like Europe is trying to separate themselves from him. They're just trying to separate Christianity from Prophet Muhammad because then you cannot separate Quran from the Bible. Then you're stuck. You're doomed. You know the same God sent it down. So then both of you have to now admit there's corruption in both your books. This book cannot be so significant, the Quran, unless the same God sent it, who sent the Bible. There's no other book in history that people keep connecting to you guys who use the Bible. So that's the greatest fear for the devil, for these two human beings, Jesus and Muhammad, to be connected. Because then he can have two religions, Islam, Christianity, which is just one religion. So then Mahdi is going to come from Asia, and exactly what you think. They're going to live in Europe, understand Christianity better than anyone probably, but they will understand it. They will have experience with Christians. They will be friends with everybody. They will have experience with every race. They will travel. They will be very intelligent. They will be a poet. They will be a writer. They're going to have great intellect, great speech. Everything they say our prophet didn't do. Mahdi is going to have those qualities. You guys can't be like, who cares? This is this person's qualities. No, your prophet told you that person is just like me. That's his way of telling you to remember to look at them and just see him. Whatever greatness God gives this person is God telling you the greatness your prophet had because he's accused of being nothing. So then, okay, that's why Jesus is returning at the same time of Mahdi. It's like Prophet Muhammad and Jesus are coming back together. It's like these two religions that were supposed to be one. It's like they have to join, not by some one leader coming and doing the same thing again, calling everybody. We don't want the same cycle. We don't want the same cycle. This should have ended in Prophet Muhammad's time, but it didn't. God's religion is split apart. That rarely happens. It usually joins, it becomes one book, and the other religions are usually just pagan and crazy. But if the same God, right, the two books he sent in two lifetimes don't want to mix, Muslims, Christians, you splitting up, okay, someone has to be sent again that both of you acknowledge. Muslims acknowledge Mahdi, Jesus is acknowledged by Christians. Both of them will come together and tell you, we're from the same God and we're going to mix everything. But see, God is still going to do it in a unique puzzle. Mahdi is going to have experience with Africa, Europe, and Asia, just like your prophet. So don't necessarily think you know who really adopted him. Maybe Africans adopted him. Maybe Europeans adopted him. You don't know where he was at the origin. They have to lie to you and act like he was in Arabia. But it's very hard to be in Arabia and then start traveling usually. He might have started off in Europe, or he might have started off in Africa, or he might have started off in Arabia. Because then how did they technically not know who he was for a long time? Those Arabs didn't know anything. Just like you don't know who Mahdi is. So it's a puzzle. Just understand all the bad stuff about him is a lie. And when God shows you who Mahdi is, just look at their life. It's similar to your prophet. They tell you he never went to jail, he never suffered, he was never poor. If Mahdi had to go through that, your prophet did. Because they act like he didn't suffer like Jesus. He suffered a lot. But they sent him to some little Arabian city, traveling on some little caravan. That caravan meant going across the globe. The devil has to descend him to just his little city. Because then you guys will not believe he ever shared Islam with Christians. Because they were the first ones to enter the religion. Pagan people don't understand what you're talking about. The first people you have to visit are those who already worship God, but they're doing evil, they're corrupted. That's literally why you're being sent anyway. To stop them first. So he has to go to Christians. He cannot go to Christians unless he understands what happened to the Bible, which parts of it is good and which parts of it is bad. He has to have some experience. Because they exactly. But what kind of God do you think our Lord is? Dumb? He's gonna send you a leader just like Jesus, but that leader doesn't know anything about the people after Jesus, what they're practicing. He has to understand Christians and Europeans and Africans and Asians and everybody. So that is great intellect and wisdom that someone God made sure, no matter where He created them, had to move around and know everybody. Okay, so in order to make it seem as if the book he had with him, the religion he had with him, in order to separate it from the Bible, Christianity, which is the same, they have to just descend him and push him off to little Arabia over there.